This Tropicana grape juice is so awesome. It's just about the best tasting drink I've ever had. Sodas included. Tropicana grape juice. That's it. That's all you need. And water, probably some water once in a while, but Tropicana grape juice, I love it. All right, Jordan. I'm gonna play some pretty darn fast chess here. So for that purpose, I'll shrink the board. You can probably see that. Oh, hello everybody. Hello, Gravitrons. I'm More Gravity. Let's play chess. Game in 3 minutes per side. It's pretty quick. You gotta be on your toes. You got some moves. There'll be times if you play enough games that you just have to make the move ahead of time, or at least the moment your opponent moves, because that's the thing to do, and that's best chess wise. I've shrunk the board a bit here, but I'm okay with that. My mouse will navigate. Let's even make it just a little bit smaller here. Alright, so if we're okay with that, I'll move this back up where it usually is placed. And then we get to go on DK mode. My friends who have played GoldenEye know what I'm talking about. Now that's not DK mode. This is DK mode. Alright. Second week we're going. It's gotta count for something. Alright. Without any more ado. Thinking of my fellow Falcon and my fellow Laurentian and my fellow housemate on that one. Adieu. It's fun. This is so direct, but so awesome. Alright, what are we playing here? King's Gambit might make sense. DK mode. Up the DK mode a bit here. I really sit that tilted. Alright. Sorry about that. I'm sorry about that. Okay, let's let the computer review this game. One bad blunder. My opponent missed that. The queen takes e3. Check. Queen takes e3 check. And there were mistakes leading up to it. Okay. Alright. So what I'm thinking doing is two bishops endgame drill. Okay. Two bishops is the most practical. Well, two bishops. Consider the end games: bishop and knight, queen versus rook, and two bishops. Two bishops is not only the most common endgame you'll come across in this manner, it is also the easiest to force checkmate against the lone king, and so therefore is prioritized when you're learning to play endgame chess. I would recommend prioritizing the two bishops and king versus lone king. Queen and rook, or queen versus rook, is reasonably common. It's not all that common actually, but it's also extremely difficult. So it's less common than two bishops and more difficult. Same thing with knight and bishop. So for that reason, I recommend if you're gonna start studying these out of those three endgames, do yourself a favor, start with the two bishops and know it well. This is an endgame that occurs. So you see here that you can force checkmate against a lone king. Generally, you just kind of like move towards the center to begin with, but then moves like with the bishop, with the light squared bishop on e4, then we make e5 moves like that. Just okay, we were already controlling f6, but f4 is important to control so that the king doesn't break towards the center. If you allow your opponent's king to constantly break towards the center, you kind of have to restart your checkmating pattern. And here, breaking towards the center would also mean chasing away, perhaps, the bishop at e4. Not necessarily, because the king can move to protect it, but we're not there yet. We're still working on capitalizing on the fact that black's king is restricted to the g file and h file if we play correctly. So that's a long build up for where I'm getting at, which is, look at this wall. This is like a wall that the bishops sort of together possess against the black king. Wherever he may go, he cannot traverse against this wall, at least until one of the bishops is moved. So we're not really worried about black harassing the bishop at e5 because it's in the endgame and would take him 1, 2, 3, 4 moves to capture on e5, and that's after walking through g6, which is under white control. All right, so this actually takes 5 moves without, and even then, right? Even then, there's the dark squared bishop controlling g7. So you normally don't want your bishops to stand without protection, one stacked against the other stacked against the one, like this, like next to each other. Then all black has to do is play rook to e8, and the undefended bishop moves, leaving behind the undefended bishop. So normally you don't want to stack your bishops like this. It's a tactical weakness in a middle game. But when there's no rooks or queens to make use of a file like that, then so what? You see my opponent's king, if we extend the bishop's scope here, I showed how that there's this wall on the f file against black's king. And if we extend the scope of these two bishops, we see that it's almost completely covering the g file as well. If we can bounce back and forth between g4 and g5, but that's fine because I'll scoop my king around to one side or the other and further restrict the enemy king's movement. All right, you see that all these squares are cut off from black's king's options to where to move. He's got h6, h5, h4, and g4. Now you have a situation where there are only 1, 2, 3, 4 moves available to your opponent. You might even just calculate, right? We're not quite there yet. Alright, so my opponent moves to h6. I'm just using the restricted movement. The way I've restricted my opponent's movement, I'm going to move king to d5, move my king in closer, and then surround black in a way that cuts off his only, if he wants to waddle back and forth on g5, that's fine, but not if I'm going to tell him not to by moving to f6, and then he's got to find another place to go. He can't waddle to g5. This king, my friends, is restricted to moving to either h5, I think h4 is possible, or h3. At any rate, so quickly we have pushed the black king to the h file. And he is now cut off from this whole huge section of the chessboard because he's on the h file instead. It doesn't really matter where he goes. I will have control over the negative space a bit here. King to f5 is good for that. We want to note that if I weren't paying attention, or if I over pursue, if I'm in some kind of time trouble, there are huge blunders for white to make here. How about king to g5? King to g5. No. It's a horrible move because the king now has, importantly, both the h4 square and the g4 square cut off from his movement. King to g5 here, folks, is a draw by stalemate. And what a sad story that would be after white had amassed a 2-bishop lead and then it had this 2-bishop forced checkmate as an endgame. King to g5 is a big no-no. It's a no-no. So you have to be a little bit careful. And I was when I played the drill or whatever with the position I set up. King to f5. Now black has this sole move. And from here, you kind of just, we see that black is completely restricted. You just kind of play whichever move makes sense in your mind in a way. Yeah, like, you can almost, when you're this close, you can almost see it. They say, some people say, when you're that close, you can almost taste it. We're funneling, and we're not all that worried if the king's going to move back to h4, because he's still restricted to the h file. That's lousy, and even at that certain parts of the h file, that can't work as a long-term idea. So, h4. And I'm using the fact that black cannot penetrate this. He will be, there's no future for him back at his side of the board in the higher numbered ranks. So we take our time and just go nice and slow, as Eminem would say, around the outside, but there are no trailer park girls on this chess match. There can be. There's nothing against that, but in this particular thing, there are not. I guess it takes a little bit of understanding and insight to know that Bishop g4 is the move here because now we're really restricting black's movement. And it's just back and forth between h1 and h2. Time things right by pulling the light squared bishop back. We still have control over h3. So check him into h2. We don't worry about h3 anymore because the king's way on the first rank. And then bishop to e4, checkmate. This is a classic way to checkmate when you have two bishops and a king against a lone king. Alright, I think I'm okay with that. I'm actually gonna save this. What did I do? Well, whatever. We're gonna add this to one of the. This is reviewed live. This is endgame practice. It's a type of drill. We're teaching. Okay. Okay, now I didn't see the results of the review on the game I played. I don't know how accurate this game was or wasn't, so let's review this game. Okay, looks like it wasn't all that accurate. I'm not actually concerned with that right now. Alright, I'm going to take a break here, folks. Thank you for watching. Thank you, Gravitrons. On More Gravity. Have a great night.